Hey there, guys. Alex here from SPP, and today I'm joined by my colleague Dian,
Hi everyone.
as well as our guest John today for a quick interview to ask him a few questions and see what he has to say.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you.
Thank you for joining us, John. Could you start by telling us a little bit more about your business and what do you exactly do, and just fill us in?
Yeah, so I run a dev shop. The dev shop is basically developers based out of Latin America. I'm based out of Miami right now, but most of my developers are in either Colombia, Peru, Chile. So we started off as basically just a normal dev shop doing project work. And yeah, I think you guys probably want to talk to me because I'm slowly transitioning to make it more productized.
Can you just quickly tell us how SPP managed to improve your day-to-day workflow with all of your developers, especially since they're not close to you but on a different continent? And has it helped you in any way spend more time on work rather than worrying about all the smaller details and admin tasks?
Yeah, I think the right answer to your question is it didn't really help as much with the workflow for the developers, but it helped a lot more for the clients on the sales side for the clients, right? So I think the developers, we use a lot of Jira, we use a lot of GitHub, and that's how we generally assign. But it helped a lot more on the client side for the sales.
So, John, as a developer-based agency, how do you find yourself validating your services?
I think so. The thing with selling development, right? I think people always need developers. So I think the more important part was niching down because we at the beginning we were trying to do a little bit of everything. Okay, yeah, you guys want a mobile app, an iOS app. Okay, let's do it. Okay, you guys want a Vue or React app. All right, let's do it. But really niching down into WooCommerce and Shopify was where we found a really good niche where the client is they'll either have some tech experience, but they also need like long-term maintenance. So I think validating it was more through niching down into specific CMSs like Shopify and WooCommerce, and then getting the right clients that need development services to basically help run their business, as opposed to them having to hire developers.
Okay, following up on that a little bit, because we at SPP we have a blog posts on niching down, and I think it comes across a few of our clients often ask about niching down. How did you decide what to niche down on?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think I don't have any affiliation to Upwork, but I'm going to plug them in here because Upwork, a lot of developers and a lot of service providers hate working on Upwork because they say it's like cheap work, or it's a race to the bottom with pricing. But I think the interesting thing about Upwork at the very beginning is you get to try a lot of different sort of clients, right? So that's where we kind of tried a lot of different things, and as we tried a lot of different things, we started niching down into the clients that we did like, right? So um, the problem with big like web apps and iOS apps is it's really hard to get an entrepreneur to scope down on the process unless they're technical. But when it comes to like WooCommerce or Shopify, it's somebody that's just like, hey, I know what I need, and can you help me get this done? Or a CMO that's like, hey, like I need some marketing initiatives, and I need developers to help me on the spot, and that's why we need to have you guys on call, or can we open up tickets with you guys? So niching down was a process. It was kind of like a big stone block, and we've been in business for almost 4 years now. Every year we kind of chip away, and now we turn away other work, right? Because what happens is when you take all kinds of work, it's harder for your developers to it's harder for you to create processes. But now we're able to create processes, and if somebody comes in with like an iOS app or something, if it has nothing to do with WordPress or Shopify, we have to say no, no thanks. And I now have partners that I send that work to, and they're happy to send it. And then whenever they get Shopify or WooCommerce work, they send it back to me.
Okay, sounds pretty good. Yeah, that makes sense, I think, because I think the agencies that focus on too much work, they're really on the agency model instead of the productized services model. So they work a little bit differently. They're totally fine putting a sales team on top, and then you talk to a sales rep, and then they sell you a package. But if you want to productize it, you probably don't have such a big team of salespeople at all, or none of them actually. Following up on that question, what have you found to be the biggest advantage of productizing your services?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it a little bit with the other question, but it's the sales process. It really cuts down where it's as we niche down, and then if somebody reaches out, or if somebody, if we have a sales call, it's usually like, hey, this is what we do. Here's a link where you can buy either a block of hours, or here's a link where you can buy this integration, or here's a link where you can buy this, this specific task. So what we're doing is we're creating products inside of SPP that we get a lot of questions for. So for example, the recharge integration into Shopify is an integration for the subscription. And that's a product that we offer now inside of SPP, right? Or loop returns, which is how do we integrate this return system into Shopify? That's another product. So as the questions come in, like, the same work comes in, we just productize it like that.
To add to that, actually, you just mentioned in your answer that your clients are able to buy a block of hours. How does that work? How are you able to track the time that your clients have purchased and track how much time your developers spend on every project? And are there any other metrics that you track within SPP?
Yeah, good question. So this is something that maybe I should reach out to Chris about, but that we are tracking time externally. I would like eventually for SPP to do it, but the best thing about SPP is we were able to get to market fast and offer the products fast and sell it fast. But right now we're tracking the time externally using Clockify, because the team is one of the big things about us is we're lifestyle is number one for me and all the developers, right? So the important part about tracking the time is not because I want to, stay on top of the developers. It's so that we can build the clients correctly. So I always tell my team, like, hey, we're not tracking time because, to watch your screen, because most developers hate that. And I know I hate it if somebody's tracking my screen, and, sometimes you might go get coffee or something. So I tell them, hey, we're tracking the time for the clients, be fair. And, we're always fair with our hours. If we do something wrong, we tell the clients, like, hey, this is our mistake. Don't worry, we won't charge you for the hours because we made a mistake here. We'll fix it. But yeah, so that's how we track hours externally using Clockify. And the other metrics we use is really, we have some subscription-based clients, and the main metric, and we're still working this out, is basically like making sure people stick, right? So we have the monthly recurrent revenue, and if people stick, then we give out bonuses on the team.
You mentioned you spend a lot of time on sales. What does your sales process look like? How did you find leads? How did you close them? Is there something you can give away and tell other productized services or those who want to start productizing?
Yeah, so I think maybe not everyone, it's not the greatest answer, right? But we started providing a service, right? So we're an agency first, and that kind of, after 3 years, you kind of have like this compounding interest where people are either coming back or you get referrals. And because of that compounding interest of doing good work, we're able to use SPP and say, hey, Alex referred you to us. So here's a link, you can buy these hours. So our leads are really, our leads are coming from, first they started in Upwork, and then they kind of grow, right? And then the sales process now is, if I sell a project, let's say we sell a Shopify build or we sell a small integration, I always go back and say, hey, look, we also offer these things. So it's anytime I have a sales call, I always show them on the sales call SPP, like, hey, look, this is our help desk. If and when you're ready, we can use this. And if you're already using it, here are the other products that we offer here so that you can always use this. I'm starting to see if I can get some sort of like commission based. I know you guys offer that like inside of the portal. I want to see if that incentivizes clients, but so far, the month that I've been trying it, I haven't got a lot of clients to be incentivized by a commission. I think a part of them might feel a little dirty about it, but yeah, I gotta dig deeper into that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer. The commission, yeah, it doesn't work for every business. It's really interesting. I think it sometimes depends on the clients, especially really high value clients. I think they're not really interested in commission. They might refer you though if it's just for free. They like your product or service so much they will just refer you anyway. Have you noticed this word of mouth referral system so far?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things, right? Like when we're wrong or when we do something, we always admit to being wrong. And because in this industry, not a lot of people admit to being wrong. I think it gives a sense of being trustworthy, right? So when we're trustworthy, people are happy to refer their friends or their business partners or people that they do business with to us because we give off a sense of trust, right? And we are honest with what we do. And I always offer a money back guarantee just because I know when I purchase things, if I feel like, oh man, I can't get my money back, I don't purchase, right? So I always tell them like, hey, look, if you're not happy, we'll return your money. And to be honest, I've only had one person in the past 3 years ask for their money back.
All right, so for my next question for you, John, I was wondering what are the things that you feel like are the most important to focus on when starting a new business?
Um, I think the most important things are probably sales. It's like you, you could spend a lot of time trying to perfect your landing page or trying to perfect your logo or perfect all these things, but sales is the most important part. I'm sure I think just figuring out where to get these leads from, and I've used Upwork already. I already told you guys about Upwork, but there's a lot of places where marketplaces where you can put your agency or your productized service and offer, really, it sucks, but you probably have to offer less expensive than your competitors at first. But that way, you can prove yourself. And as you build your book of business, you start getting the referrals, like Dayan said, and you start building that compound interest that happens. So sales is number one, and then you just got to be patient. Because everyone wants to hit the ground running and be a millionaire in a year, but that's only that doesn't happen to everyone that way.
Another question that I had in mind was how important do you find to networking for a business, especially now during COVID? You probably can't really meet clients or go to conferences and so on, but are there any online conferences you are maybe attending, or what kind of networking are you doing?
Yeah, I think so. My favorite kind of networking is not like the traditional sense of like the traditional networking, like going to, I do go to, I'll explain the conferences after, but my favorite kind of networking is doing good work, right? Like when you have a client, that client, if you do good work for them, that is the best kind of network you can do. Like, really do good work for them, and they're going to refer you, and they're going to be your friend if you help them make money, if you help them get their product launched, if you help them, all those things. That's the best kind of networking for me. So from the very beginning, from when I started the agency to when I started productizing, is the thing that, the whole company is based on, hey, we got to do good work, because that's the best kind of networking. Other than that, when I go to conferences, I make friends. I try to, if I can, I'll try to do a talk. Those things don't usually lead to sales, and I don't expect them to, because when you go with that kind of intention, like I want to sell or I want to get more leads from here, I think people feel it. I think that, instinctively people know when you're trying to sell them something. So I do it, and it has resulted in sales, but in the long term, right? It might be somebody I met, and then in a year, they'll be like, hey, I remember you said you do Shopify. Do you think you could help, so-and-so with this? I'm going to introduce you to them. But it's literally like not going in with that intention. I think going in with that intention is it's not the greatest.
That being said, do you use any kind of classical networking tools, LinkedIn or something else? Do you check out some client profiles or try to find leads via LinkedIn at all?
Yeah, I think, I have never done, I've tried LinkedIn outreach. I have. And I didn't have great success with it. So now what I do is when I do meet somebody, I do add them on LinkedIn. I try to, pretty much just make that connection, right? And but yeah, I don't really do any sort of like that kind of outreach, if I'm being honest with you guys.
You have previously mentioned that you're doing this project where you're building 12 different startups within 12 months. How is that going? What are some obstacles you've faced? How's the progress in general?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. I don't want to take. So I don't want to take credit for it, right? There's Peter Levels, I think he's the founder of Nomad List, was the one that created this. And the whole idea was, if you focus all your time on one project and then you get it to launch, you might have a bust, right? So I think that I got to find out who made this theory up, but 5% of all your projects actually become something. So the goal is to do as much as you can, and hopefully one of those projects are something that takes off. So we're in our third one. We're a little bit late. We've been doing it for 4 months, but we're on our third project. And I'll tell you, the first two ones, they were bust. It's completely different than selling services because nobody wants to talk to you, right? It's either the product is good enough or it's not. So we've tried the cold email outreach with the sequence. One of the first products was called Community Genie. Maybe it'll take off someday, I don't know, but it's still there. So Community Genie is a Discord bot that helps manage communities inside of Discord. So if you or Dean have a subscription inside of a crypto Discord, you would use Community Genie to manage the subscriptions and make sure everyone pays and kicks people that doesn't. That one didn't work out so well. And then the second one was kind of like a boilerplate starter for a JavaScript called Vue.js. So if you wanted to start a SaaS, you can use that. We basically took the code from Community Genie and built a boilerplate for it on that one. I haven't tried marketing that one, but yeah, it's fun. I'll tell you one thing, it's fun. I'm learning a lot of new things about selling software, which is completely different than selling services, right? It's fun. And hopefully I'll talk to you guys in 2 years and maybe one of them will be successful, but it's so far it's fun and a good learning experience.
Absolutely. I would love to see the update where one of those works out. And I really it sounds like a very interesting concept to me. I was genuinely intrigued when I read about that. So I was very curious to see how's it going. I really hope one of them works out, man. That sounds like a pretty cool concept for sure.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think one thing, what was I going to mention about that? Shoot, I forgot what I was going to say about that. But yeah, hopefully one of them works out. But it's tough. The software is completely different for sure.
Even if it doesn't work out, I think there's some founders who, I think on Indie Hackers I saw it was somewhere where they have they look back on the project and how it failed and try to find out why it failed. So that's always good to do like a blog post or something, so other people can read up on your failure, basically. Even if it stinks, I think it's really nice to see that you tried and maybe find a way why it failed.
I think that's one of the things that for us as a team, what we're learning is to deliver, and then two, we're also learning to fail. It sucks, but it's still something we've created, right? And we can continue to build on top of that. I remember what I was going to say, Alex. It was I tried to do this thing everyone says work in public, so I started trying to post kind of blog posts on it, but then I got so bogged down with work that I forgot to continue to update it. And plus nobody was really reading, but maybe I should start updating it. So maybe I have both of you guys. Maybe both of you guys will be my first readers.
Man, I can guarantee that I'll be reading it. It's just that the problem I think with the dev blog is that you get overwhelmed, because then when you have a specific, let's say you post every Friday, right? It becomes very difficult to keep up with a dev blog if you don't do anything this week because you didn't have the time. You feel guilty when you get to the point where you need to update it, right?
And sometimes it doesn't really sound sexy. Oh yeah, we had a really hard time with this function this week, and people are well, you know what? Maybe it could be useful. Yeah. In my head, I'm this doesn't sound sexy. Nobody likes this, but you know what? I should get out of my own head.
Yeah, I would definitely read it for sure.
Are you on Twitter by any chance? Because I think I see usually devs on Twitter and then they post a thread, and I think other devs, they see it, they find it somehow, it gets some traction.
Yeah. So I wasn't big on Twitter until probably 6 months ago, and now I'm reading other devs' work, and I follow some good people on Twitter. So I'm you know what, I should start tweeting some stuff out. I think it's just the same thing with the agency and the productized services. You got to commit. You got to keep doing it, and it might not take off at first, but I guess after a year, 2 years, 3 years, you'll see some traction. I just got to commit and keep posting it.
I watched this podcast that you were a part of, John, and you mentioned that you saw someone like you met someone, I believe, that wanted that positioned their business completely differently to how you did, and that interested you to reposition your business. So how did that end up affecting you?
I think so. I don't know if I'll ever sell the business, but after speaking to his name was Jesse. Jesse basically had kind of like silos in his business, and when he offered to sell me his business, I looked at them. And the most interesting parts to me were always the parts where they weren't project based, right? Even though the project based projects are the big money makers, you might get a 40, 50, $60,000 project. Those aren't the ones that interested me, and I don't think those are the ones that interest buyers, right? People want to know about the MRR or the ARR, or how sticky are these customers, and that's why SPP has been probably my it's been my favorite part of the business, because now if somebody's like, oh well, I don't want to pay for hosting, I just make a little product in SPP, here you go, and I double the cost of hosting in WP Engine. So if hosting is $20, here's $100, and people, they'd rather just pay me for it. So now I have a bunch of MRR, and that MRR has really almost no turn. If I ever wanted to sell a business, I could say, hey, look, here's our MRR for, these are our 15 retainer clients. Here are our 20 hosting clients, and this literally turnkey, and the developers help run it. And yeah, so I think that would have a much higher multiple than, sometimes we get projects, sometimes people reach out, or sometimes, you know what I mean? It's just a much higher, it's MRR. It's the, I guess, the dream, right?
So one more question that I wanted to ask you is, when you started setting up SPP, did you encounter any kind of limitations? And when you try to work around them, did you adapt to SPP, or did you try to adapt SPP to your limitations? Because that's something that I'm really interested in about.
That's a good question. I think, so I'll tell you the first thing about SPP is there's a lot of features that you don't know off the bat, right? So my first thing was like, I just need to get an easy way to sell people, because I'm tired of having to I have to make a proposal. I have to basically talk on the phone, make a proposal. Then I have to send them the invoice. So I was like, I need an easy way to do this, and I'm just going to sell a block of hours because I'm tired of doing that. So I sent them the link. So that was the first thing I needed to learn. I was like, okay, how do I make a product and send the link? That was the first thing. And then, I was like, shoot, man, I wish we could collect all the credentials on the site. And then you realize you can, right? You can make the order form. So I started doing that. So slowly, I think that there's a lot of things. It's almost like I wish I had somebody on my team that knew SPP. That way they could set up everything beforehand. But I'm the person that learns SPP. So first we were adjusting to SPP. And now I think we've learned all the features we can inside of SPP. And so now we're kind of doing external things to work into SPP. Things like the time tracking. Second one that I really wish we could do is prioritizing tickets. Because prioritization, sometimes with a client might have 5, 6, 7 tickets, but we don't know the priority. We have to keep a separate tab on it. So at first we were adjusting to SPP, and now since we got a good grasp on what it can do, we're kind of working externally and having SPP adjust to us.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think it's also the correct way of doing things, because a lot of agencies, especially if they are already established, they just try to go to SPP and then do things their way, like they're already used to. But usually the software is flexible, but not that flexible. You cannot make it do things it just cannot do. So you need to maybe just change the way of how you do things with your services, offer them differently. If you want to onboard clients and there's no direct way of onboarding them, what we tell them usually, sell a $0 service. You don't even need the payment field. They just have to go through this order form, and then you can save everything in the CRM, and that's it. So you have all the data you need in the future. So that's just a workaround. You just have to be very creative with how you do things, basically.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it's just getting people on the platform and then figuring out everything after. I think, that's so basically the way I look at my agency is I look at the agency as like a project-based business, and then SPP is the productize, right? So after a project is done, I'm like, hey, look, okay, cool, we're done with this project. We're now transitioning you into our help desk, which is on SPP. And it's a completely different process. I think, like that, basically, to me, it's two businesses. it's like a help, like the teams are different, the ones that service them. So I put that into the client mindset also, where it's like, hey, look, you're transitioning now into our help desk. You're going to have a designated developer that's going to be working on your project so that they know your stuff, right? And yeah, you gotta switch. I think people want to keep working the way they always do, but that's not how productize works. And if you want to productize, you got to switch.
It was really, really fun talking to you, John. Thank you so much for your time, and we would love to have you again in a year to hear about how your project went with 12 different startups.
Hopefully, I'll take that interview on my yacht. All right, guys, have a good day.
Have a good
Good
rest of
night.
your day, and talk to you soon.
See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.